It is finally here. Georgia Tech opens the 2023 season Friday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Louisville. I'm joined by our Georgia Tech beat writer, Chad Bishop. And instead of just straight previewing that game, Chad and I thought it would be fun to make some predictions for the whole season. So we're going to get started and dive right in. Chad, give me your offensive and defensive player to watch.
Well, for the offense, I'm looking at the entire offensive line, Sarah. This is a group that, they played together a little bit, but how will they impose their will on opponents? How much will they mesh together? The offensive line has got to be a strength for this team, so I'm watching them for sure. Defensively, I'm looking at Paul Moala, transfer from Idaho by way of Notre Dame, who is a veteran. He's had a great camp. He's had a great preseason. He could be a star at linebacker for the Yellow Jackets.
As hard as it is to do before they've played it down, give me your offensive and defensive projected MVPs.
Offense, it's got to be Haynes King, the guy named as starting quarterback, transferred from Texas A&M. If this team is going to have a lot of success, he's got to be the MVP of this team. He's a veteran. He's played a lot of SEC football. He won the starting job in fall camp. That bodes well for Georgia Tech, for that kid to come in and win the job. Defensively, it's got to be LaMiles Brooks. I mean, that kid had a wonderful 2022 at safety. He's primed to have another big year at 2023 as he tries to make a name for himself going into the NFL draft.
Before we move on, here's what Georgia Tech coach Brent Key had to say about the mindset he wants from Haynes King and how he doesn't always want him to feel like he has to look over his shoulder.
As a coach, you don't want somebody looking over your shoulder. In business world, having someone look over your shoulder. I mean, you would hate someone constantly looking over your shoulder and thinking they were going to pull your, what you write or what you do on TV. That they were constantly getting ready to yank you off the set or pull the pen out of your hand. There's a nervousness when you do that, and when you have that feeling, you're constantly thinking about that. Whether you believe you are or not, it's in the back of your head. So, look, Haynes is our quarterback. Haynes the guy. Everyone on this football team is going to, and myself included, everyone is going to make some sort of a mistake, all right, in the game. Everyone's going to make some sort of a mistake today. Everyone in this room makes mistakes, all right. That's part of life, all right. But he understands the confidence I have in him, this team has in him, the coaching staff has in him, that he is the guy.
Okay, moving on. Chad, give me a breakout star for this season, and this has to be a guy who did not play much, if at all, last year.
Kind of had my eye on Jamal Haynes. He's a former wide receiver who moved to a running back just this fall. Didn't do it in the spring or the summer. They just sort of moved him into the backfield. He's going to be sort of a Swiss Army knife for Buster Faulkner's offense, catching passes out of the backfield. He's kind of a smaller dude, so he can kind of squeeze there in between those tackles in the run game.
Okay, most intriguing storyline.
We definitely could go the quarterback route here, but I'm looking at Brent Key. How's his first season as the full-time head coach going to go? How's he going to adapt to adversity? How's he going to coach in big games? What are some of the decisions he's going to make on and off the field to propel this program moving forward?
And here's what Key told media on Tuesday about the identity he wants to create here at Georgia Tech.
It's no different than it's been since the first day we got together. I want to see a physically tough, disciplined football team that's committed to each other, committed to the process, and has the ability to go out there and execute. Three of those things I think we've come a long way with. I think we're a lot more physically tough football team. I think we're more mentally tough. I think they're committed to each other. I really do. The discipline we've so greatly improved, and we work on it every day, and we've improved so much. Again, when you get out there and the unknowns occur and the first game happens, that's where you got to hope that they rely back on their training. But really, the execution, that's the thing that you don't know. You know the execution in practice. You know how it happens. You know how it occurs there. You know how it's been. But then executing versus another opponent, that's the thing that I really want to see in this game and see how we execute.
Okay, not a fun one to talk about, but we do have to talk about biggest potential weakness for this team.
Well, I mentioned the offensive line earlier, and I'm going to go back to the offensive line. If those guys don't come together, I'm serious about this. This Georgia Tech team is not going to have a chance. Those guys need to protect Haynes King. They need to play physical. Heck, Brent Key's a former offensive lineman, so he's always going to have his eye on that unit. They need to play a dominant brand of football to create running lanes for these running backs on this team. That offensive line, if they're not a strength, they're definitely going to be a weakness for this team.
Game you're most excited for, one that you have circled on your calendar that you are looking forward to for whatever reason.
Not cliche, it's the Georgia game, Sarah. I mean, Brent Key's talked about it all offseason.
If you've heard of Georgia.
The Yellow Jackets are sick of the Georgia narrative, but they're back-to-back national championships, so the arch rival for Georgia Tech, and Brent Key's job is to go out there and change that narrative and to beat the Bulldogs. So no matter what Georgia Tech's record is at the end of the year, I'm looking forward to that game to see how they play their biggest rival and see if they can close that gap, maybe even win that game.
In Brent Key's first season as full-on head coach,
Yeah.
how do the Yellow Jackets define success this season? What does success look like for Georgia Tech this year?
For me, it's not just making a bowl game or getting to the postseason. It's winning 7 games. It's winning 8 games. It's beating some ranked opponents. It's winning that bowl game. I think this program under Brent Key has higher aspirations than just being 6-6 or 7-5 every year. They went 5-7 last year and won 4 games under Brent Key. So this is not a ground zero situation. I think success for them is getting to that 7-win mark, 8-win mark to really build that momentum, keep that momentum going. Look ahead to 2024, which could be an even bigger year.
Chad, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks to all of you for watching. Make sure you go to ajc.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel to find more videos just like this one.